All right, we are at 2 minutes after, and that means we're going to kick off today's webinar, which is, of course, if you can hopefully see this slide, improving dispatcher efficiency with the Dispatcher Workspace. The purpose of this presentation is to support our customers and our implementation teams in better understanding field service management capabilities and value, as well as provide useful information about the implementation and the configuration process. So this is also useful for customers who are migrating from our legacy central dispatch to the Dispatcher Workspace. My name's Rob Schaefer. I'm going to be presenting with Vasanth Terrence. So let's start off. So this is a much younger picture of me. I believe that's about 10 years old, and I refuse to take a more current one. I'm the outbound product management director for the field service product line. I've been with ServiceNow for 5.5 years. I've been supporting field service organizations for a little over 30 years. That's why I have the younger picture up there. And my great friend, Vasanth Terrence. Vasanth, do you want to say hello? Tell a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vasanth Terrence. Thanks, Rob, for doing this opportunity. So I'm looking forward for this session.
Excellent. All right, so let's kick off, because this presentation may contain forward-looking statements that reflect the current beliefs of ServiceNow. They're based on current information available. We're not really planning on talking about anything future or forward-looking, but we always put this up there. So these forward-looking statements should not be relied upon in making purchasing decisions, of course. I also want to point out today's session is just one part of the Live on ServiceNow curated event series. It connects you with the ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy your products and achieve value faster. We hope you join us again at another webinar or meetup, and you can see the schedule by scanning the QR code or using the link that I believe is about to appear in the chat. Oh, there's a message that just appeared. That's probably it. Speaking of upcoming events, we have another one coming up for field service management called Improving Technician Productivity with the Mobile Agent app. It's coming in 2 months, so mid to late June, and it's really focused on using the mobile app, but more specifically, again, how do you enable, how do you personalize, configure the mobile app. Maybe you want to add some other fields or some other objects, and you want to make some of those objects even available while offline. It's a pretty powerful way to add even more value to your mobile app to further empower your technicians. So I'm hoping you'll join us for that session. A few housekeeping notes. There's time at the end for Q&A. Use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, but you can post those questions along the way, but we'll address those later on. We're recording this. We will share this presentation on the community, and we'll also post-event, we'll send you a survey. We'd really appreciate your feedback. Hey, the presenter was really annoying, or there's great content here, or I'm surprised you didn't talk about X. Any of that feedback we welcome. It's just going to allow us to improve this series. So for our agenda, we're going to talk for a couple minutes, and by we, I mean me. We're going to talk about the dispatcher experience and the challenges that they face. And then after that, I'll introduce the Dispatcher Workspace, and I'll ask Vasanth to review some scenarios live in the Dispatcher Workspace and demonstrate the product and the configuration steps. Then we have a few next steps to guide you through the process of trying some of this out yourself, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So that leads us to the dispatcher experience. And today, as I review field service management, our goal is to better understand the role of the dispatcher and how the Dispatcher Workspace helps them meet their objectives. So the dispatcher plays a pivotal role in many service organizations, ensuring technicians are kept productive and working on the right things, right? So for some, the goal is to get the most work done most work scheduled in any given day. For others, it's to ensure all SLAs are met. For others, it might be we just need to keep travel costs low. And these goals may vary from day to day, workload to workload, service region to service region. The role is challenging, but it's exacerbated by a lot of different components. So we have different task types, our installs and inspections, break fix, preventive maintenance. They all have different needs and different workflows. Now, there are also SLAs and checklists and security procedures and regulatory processes that may need to be adhered to and documented. And then, as if that wasn't enough, consider the myriad of criteria that make it difficult to create an efficient schedule. How long is the task? What parts are required? What skills might be required? Is there specialized equipment like lift trucks or drones or ladders? What's the location? Is this task dependent on a previous task? Is this customer, do they only allow someone on site within a given set of access hours, maybe 4 a.m. to 8 a.m.? Is there a preferred technician for this hospital? So that makes it very difficult for the dispatcher to create an efficient schedule. So let's consider some of the specific challenges. KPIs are the primary focus for many dispatchers within their service organizations, meeting their SLAs, reducing those travel costs, speeding time to dispatch, etc. So there are also barriers to meeting these KPIs. One is there's just this hypervigilance because of all of those different criteria that we talked about, the location, the access hours, the preferred technician, part skills, all that stuff, right? So the dispatcher needs to be vigilant in understanding the schedule that's in play, but they also need to know about any changes that are occurring. Maybe a job got canceled, maybe a technician's vehicle broke down, maybe a task got completed early. So the technician is just sitting there until their next job that starts an hour and a half from now. Right? Those are real pain points, and the dispatcher needs to understand. They need that information, and they need to be vigilant to take action where they can. And finally, the lack of a unified interface, right? They're looking for data across various systems or screens. And because of that, because they're jumping around from different screens and systems, they're wasting time in doing that. And because they're jumping around, the likelihood of error increases as they're getting data in from another system, maybe copying, pasting, or remembering and jumping over and entering it wrong. So let's talk one-on-one about these, or one-on however many are on here, about these specific challenges. The first was low visibility to those service KPIs. So certainly there are more KPIs out here, but some of the obvious ones that come to mind are understanding and improving the utilization of our technicians and improving the productivity, meaning the productive time versus the travel time or meeting time or other downtime. Reducing the backlog and reducing overtime needs. Of course, reducing the number of truck rolls that occur on a daily basis, or the travel costs. Improving the first visit fix, meaning we go out there, we complete a job. Not we go out there, we find out we don't have the right parts or skills or whatever it is, and have to come back another day requiring a second truck roll. And then managing and reducing the SLAs or contract penalties. If we don't meet some kind of contractual obligation, we're supposed to have this fixed and up in a 4-hour window, but it took 12 hours. We may have to pay some type of penalty to that customer. And of course, overall improving the uptime of equipment. So those are some of the KPIs. But then the need for vigilance. And we talked about things like the task cancellations, or someone's running late, so their job starts late, which should shift out the rest of their schedule, or maybe adjust their schedule and give them less work because of that. Or maybe a technician falls ill. or they complete work early. The third of the challenges I posted was the lack of a unified interface. And for those of you who were using Central Dispatch, right, there's a Gantt chart, but then there's a team calendar view where you put in your time off requests and manage all of that. And then there's the map view as well, which is very critical for many dispatchers. Some organizations will take it further. They need visibility into parts and skills. So maybe they need to alt tab to an external system or another screen that shows the inventory load for each of their technicians or the skills matrix. So there can be a lot of jumping around, right? So this lack of a unified interface was both frustrating and error prone and prevents dispatching in that timely, efficient manner. So, ta-da, guess what? If you were previously using Central Dispatch and its related views, you've already done the heavy lifting. You've got your groups, your technicians, parts, skills, and more defined, right? You could start using Dispatcher Workspace today because you already have that set up. Now, if you're someone who implements ServiceNow, this is something that's very powerful for you to know, because it's that unified interface where I have visibility into not just the Gantt, but within that Gantt, I have visibility into my time off or my non-productive team calendar type events. I have visibility to the map. This is all expandable and collapsible, and Vasanth will go into more details on that. And this is not new. Dispatcher Workspace has been around for the last few years now. So it allows field service organizations to streamline their dispatch operations and better meet those service KPIs. Next, I'd like to review some of the scenarios that Vasanth will be walking through to address the dispatcher experience. So we have a few personas. We've got a system admin person who can help in the setup and the further configuration of the Dispatcher Workspace. And that can even include some of the scheduling rules. Then we have our field service dispatcher, Ziva David. And Ziva is responsible for managing the tasks that come in. Some of those tasks will be automatically scheduled, others might not. Sometimes there are emergency events that we don't want the system to schedule. We want a dispatcher to make that best decision. Ziva also, or the dispatcher, is also responsible at times for optimizing routes. So as Ziva makes changes to an optimized schedule, it may become less efficient throughout the day. So she can manually go in and invoke an optimization process. And then creating ad hoc crews. So we'll have some defined crews, but there are times when you might not have crews available to meet the needs that come in. Right? Because of that, Ziva can create an ad hoc crew to fulfill those demands. And that leads us to the technician. They get notified of their work, they accept their work, they execute the work, they debrief the work, they manage their stockroom, they update. Because they're updating the system, that data feeds back to the dispatcher. So the dispatcher will have real-time updates. Hey, this job took longer than thought, or I completed it 2 hours early, or I'm running late. All because of that. So working together, this is how we can help solve some of these issues. So I'm going to ask Vasanth to answer this question for me. Vasanth, how does a dispatcher streamline work within the Dispatcher Workspace? And these are the scenarios that Vasanth has set up and is going to be presenting.
Thanks, Rob. Are you able to see my screen, Rob?
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Rob, for setting great context of the Dispatcher Workspace. I think we have evolved so much, hearing to all our customers how the experience of the dispatcher should be and how we can make them more productive. It's not only about one persona we are focusing, right? It's an overall objective. We are speaking about the organizational objective when you are trying to do a field service operation. So I think Rob mentioned a lot of things about this great product. I would take some more time, and showcase some of the scenarios which are of great experience or great help for the dispatchers. So as Rob mentioned, there are 4 scenarios which I would like to do, but let us go one by one. So the first scenario would be more focused on Ziva David. She is the dispatcher persona. um, we will be um, we will be demonstrating what Ziva is doing day to day in her life of dispatching tasks, how she monitors the agents and the tasks, and how Ziva is able to personalize the dispatcher workspace, which meets to her needs. And probably, like Ziva, there could be multiple dispatchers in your organizations who may want to have their own personalized workspace, so that it can work better to their needs, specific needs, right? So how personalization will help. And also we will see about task assignment process. But again, as we are focusing on the productivity of these personas, most of the task assignments would be done automatically. But there we know that dispatchers are there to help the operational part in case there are some emergency tasks or there are some cancellations. In those scenarios, definitely dispatchers need some intervention where they want to do a manual assignment. And let's see one more scenario about optimization also. Yeah, I've been talking a lot. Let me go through the a demo of this. Okay.
And I'm
Um,
hoping, by the way, Vasanth, and I'm going to jump in from time to time because my ego kind of makes me do that. I'm hoping you'll start out by addressing, I played up really big that unified interface. So maybe if you can talk about that and then go, I know this is part of the overview. So, all right,
exactly.
go ahead.
Yeah, Rob. I think that's the big thing which have changed, right? Instead of civil sharing between multiple screens, multiple user interfaces, everything is now within this new interface. I think just for probably most of people who have joined this call may already be using our existing dispatcher workspace. But just I wanted to give a quick walkthrough about what is currently available. Probably it could be just a refresher. So on the this is the dispatcher workspace, and in the dispatcher workspace, we can see on the left-hand side there are a bunch of work tasks which probably would be assigned once the shift timing is close to start. But we can see that there are tasks yet to be scheduled. There are a bunch of tasks. And again, Ziva may not be interested in scheduling each and every task manually, because this is not the productive way of her time in a day. She is going to use the automated scheduling. And in the tasks, apart from the task, this is the main area where Ziva can monitor the agents and the tasks which are going to be assigned and executed by the field service technicians. So here in this dispatcher workspace, the main work area, Ziva can see the groups she manages, foster city technicians, and within the foster city technicians, she can see that there are agents, there are crews which are planned, and also she can see there are some bucket trucks. Basically, these are some specialized equipments or tools which are required by the field service technicians to perform their job. And also we can see there are multiple groups managed by Ziva. So these are some of the existing tasks. But as we mentioned that these tasks, when all these tasks cannot be automatically scheduled by Ziva, there could be the background scheduling engine, right? Let's take an example of foster city technicians. The shift is about to start, and probably the scheduling engine can run behind the scenes, and automatically the task may get assigned, right? Ziva's job is just to do some ad hoc activities. But Ziva does not need to do interference with any of the scheduling activity. Now we saw that the task got automatically scheduled, and Ziva had to do nothing. All she was just monitoring the her main workspace. And once the task got scheduled, the refresh activities happen behind the scenes. And it is directly visible for Ziva to monitor the tasks now.
So
So now,
Vasanth, this might have already happened even before Ziva starts her day,
yep,
right? But as new work comes in, those jobs can be further assigned to.
correct, exactly.
Good.
Yeah. So we were speaking about these two panels, the task panel and the calendar panel. But as Rob mentioned, right, this is not only having the calendar and the task cards, it has multiple views. So within the dispatcher workspace, now the dispatcher, if they want to have a hybrid view, now they can have a map within the dispatcher workspace itself, so that now they can visually see, okay, these are the tasks, these are my agents. So in case if they want to work on only the map, then they can also expand this within the dispatcher workspace. They can see the route of the technicians within the dispatcher workspace. They did not need to go to another user interface to view the route, right? So now, for example, if Ziva wants to see the route of Red Brammer, she can just click on the route option here, which will now display the route of Brammer Fred on the map, right? So, and this also gives an opportunity for the dispatchers to see whether the schedules which have been created were optimal, and gives an opportunity to enhance the routes of the field service technicians, right? So this is the unified user interface which we were speaking about. We have the map view, we have the task panel here, and we have the calendar, and also we have a filter option. Say, for example, if Ziva wants to focus on any one of the groups she wants to now work upon, she can use the filter conditions. She can filter on the groups, the agents, or she wants to work only with the crews, she can filter the crews. And even with contractors, right, dispatchers can be responsible of managing few contractors, and if they want to focus on contractors, they can use that. And again, this is again a personalized filter option. Dispatcher Ziva can save this as a default view, so that whenever she opens the dispatcher workspace, this is always saved and set, the context is set. Okay. So we have been speaking about the overall dispatcher workspace, the unified experience which is provided to the dispatchers to make their life much better. But also we spoke about some personalization part, right? So let me show you how Ziva would be able to personalize her experience here. So one thing which I want to start with is we have multiple views. The dispatcher can select any one of the views here. They can select a day view or a work day view, or there are multiple views. But if Ziva is comfortable with the day view, she can configure this to be the default view for her operational stuff. How does Ziva set this? So on the top right, we can see a settings icon, which is the setting configuration, which is specific only for the logged in dispatcher, right? So now what all Ziva as a dispatcher can do? Probably dispatchers at your organization also would have similar requirements. I'll just walk you through some of the capabilities. If not all the capabilities, just walk through some key.
So Vasanth, this looks like you're allowing the dispatcher to completely personalize, or to an extent within a frame, personalize a lot of different data on this screen. In fact, there was even a question about the panel in the Gantt, how it's much slimmer now. Well,
Right.
this is just one example, right? This is very slim, and you're going to add data to it based on what your needs as an individual dispatcher are. So go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, just to walk through. So we saw initially when Ziva logged into the dispatcher workspace, there was no tasks rendered on the workspace, but the task got automatically visible on the workspace. How did it happen? It is enabled through this property. If dispatchers do not want to have auto refresh, they can disable this, and then they can use the refresh icon at the top right next to the settings button to reload the dispatcher workspace. And again, the first property, filter calendar tasks and map for a assignment group. So this could be the scenario where, as I mentioned, the Ziva wants to focus only on the tasks which are assigned to Foster City technicians. So based on this selection and filter option, now the entire dispatcher workspace, be it the map, be it the calendar, be it the task panel, everything will have the focused area set to the Foster City technician group only. And again, if dispatchers are comfortable using the dark mode map theme, it is available for them. So it is a personalized option for them to see the dark view mode of the application also. And again, if you see the default view which Ziva was comfortable was the day view. But if Ziva wants to select any other view to be her default view, Probably in the service organizations, we may have dispatchers who are dealing with break fix tasks. There could be a few dispatchers who may be dealing with project tasks, which can be from 1 day to 2 days to 3 days to a week also, right? So in that case, probably a day view may not be much comfortable for them. So then they have an option to select a week view, or also they can select 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So it is completely flexible, and they can select any option, but at the same time, they can change it so that it is contextual to that particular session also. Even we also saw there was one more option called here as the flexible days. What it means is that in case if the dispatchers want to see only 3 days, right, then they can set, okay, how many days we want to see at a time, so that that's the operational. Basically, if a Ziva is working on a 3 day span, she is interested to see only 3 days, then what she can do is that if she selects flexible days, so now only 3 days will be visible here. So the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So these will be the 3 days which Ziva will be interested to work upon, right? Again, it is configurable. It is up to the dispatchers. If they want to have 4 days, they can see 4 days also. Okay. And what are all the other options? There are a bunch of options which will enable the dispatchers to configure this workspace. This is with respect to the general settings. And again, one key important thing probably dispatchers would like to do is that schedule based on travel start time. So what this means is that in case if the dispatchers manually assign a work order task from the task panel into the calendar, what will happen is that where the drop time will become the travel start time instead of the scheduled start time. Again, it is configurable how the business requires. We
So
can
Vasant, I'm going to have you move through the next, just because we're almost at the bottom of the hour, the half of the hour, and will allow people to go through and experience these themselves. I'll walk through each of these, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. And again, there are multiple tabs here. So a dispatcher can configure the tasks, what they want to see on the task cards, what do they want to see on the resource card. So now we can see that there was no information here. But in case if they want to see the matching skills and distance to task, also they can enable it. And on the calendar panel, if they wanted to see information related to the task, which could be the short description, location, task number, those things also can be configured. And again, SLA is a critical part if they want to see the SLA of the work order task. So all these things can be configured by the dispatcher here, right? Just going to, so what we saw till here is that how Ziva was able to monitor the agents and the tasks which are assigned to them, personalize the workspace. And now let's move forward to the task assignment. Okay. So let me go to the current day. And again, within the dispatcher workspace, probably one thing which I wanted to also emphasize is that dispatchers can create their own custom queries also. So they can create their own filters here. Which is also coming very handy for the dispatchers. So in case if they want to focus on, say for example, they want to focus on maintenance tasks, right? They can create their own custom query here, which they can use for their purposes. So they can say that I want to save this filter. I can say that PM tasks. And this is made simpler by just copying the existing definition, and we are just modifying an existing definition and creating a new definition. This becomes much handy for the dispatches, right? And we also let's see, we focused about how the tasks were getting assigned, right? Now let's focus about what if Ziva wants to assign certain tasks to a technician manually. So let's say that let me query upon one work order task. And in case if this is a critical task and this has to be assigned only to Chris Martin, right? What she can do is that she can drag and drop on the schedule body, and now the system intelligently tells that, okay, to schedule this task to Chris, now I need to reassign the work order task which I've already assigned to Chris Martin. So it says that you can see that one of the tasks get moved a little later in the day, and there was one more task that also get reshuffled. So basically,
And so these both happen to have been reassigned to the same technician, to Chris, but they may have been reassigned to someone else. So this is showing I can do what you want, but here are the ramifications of making those changes, and that's really powerful.
exactly. The system can schedule to any technician. But again, the power what we are saying is that dispatchers need not worry about the existing schedules. The system will automatically make sure that it shuffles the tasks to other technicians who are available. Okay. And let's see about what happens if Ziva drags and drop a task also. So if she drags and drop this task directly to an agent, right? She can see that she can immediately assign this task. So it's very simple. The task gets assigned to the technician who Ziva wanted to assign. So again, we were focusing about how we want to make the life of dispatchers much easier, more productive. But again, what we are saying is the capabilities, but we want the dispatchers to less intervene. That's why we have all these automated things happening. But again, as we know that on a day-to-day basis, dispatchers will have challenges. That's why we also support all these capabilities within the dispatcher workspace. Okay. So with that, let me probably take you to one more scenario also. Let's select another task filter here, and let me show you. So we also saw that we want to make the life of the dispatchers much easier, right? Now this is a work order task which has to be assigned to a technician, but probably Ziva needs some help. So what Ziva can do is that Ziva can select this work order task. And now we can see that immediately the system says that, oh, this task can be assigned to Peter Buck. So now it gives the matching results. It says that Peter has all the skills and he is also closer because there is a task which Peter is already doing at this site location. So now this gives a very clear information to the dispatcher to make a decision to which agent he or she needs to assign. In our case, Ziva can assign the task to Peter based upon the suggestion. But as dispatchers get familiar, right, probably they may not even want to do this. They can directly go and say that, okay, auto assign this work order task. So this also gives the same result. It just goes ahead and assigns the task to the technician. Right?
So they could drag and drop, they could use auto assign, they could use the recommendations. There are a number of different ways. Excellent.
Correct. Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
see Peter, by the way, has some gaps in his schedule between his first job and the next job.
Yeah, Rob, I'll come to that part. I will.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So let's take, we recently created one more task filter, right? Let us select the task filter and see. So pending PM tasks. So now this task is supposed to be scheduled on the 21st. So let's move to 21st and let's try to uh, search plan options for this task. So this task goes to tell Patrick. Probably Ziva wants to say, wants to schedule this to a different technician because she feels that Patrick may not be available on that particular day. So how does she decide this? We can see that tell Patrick has already 2 tasks, and now the system is again giving an option to schedule it to tell Patrick. Probably there could be 2 ways, right? Patrick is already at that location. We can give this task to Patrick, but if you see the other aspect of it, now Patrick gets all the job. What about the other technicians? So Ziva feels that this could be an enhancement or probably some configuration can be changed so that she can make sure that there is a good amount of task distributed to her technicians. So she keeps this on a reserve and she wants to give this as a feedback to her administrator to make some configurations. So we'll come to that part little later. Okay. So now let's go back and review. So what we saw till now was Ziva's experience on the workspace doing personalization, task assignment, and optimizing the schedule. And we also saw that Ziva had some feedback which she had to give to the system administrator based on her experience. Probably there could be multiple dispatchers who would like to give the same feedback, right? Now let's come to the second scenario where we will see the intraday schedule optimization. So what generally happens is that dispatchers are kept in dark when field service technicians do not update, or there is no easier way for the dispatchers to get updates about what is happening in the field, right? But with the automatic refresh and the synchronous update happening between the technicians and the dispatchers, this becomes much easier for the dispatchers. So in this scenario, let's see Peter updates a work order tasks, then real-time updates are going to the dispatcher, right? And also we can see that if Peter completes the work order task little earlier, then that also is being notified. And since Peter completed the work order task little earlier, probably if there is a room for inserting one more work order task, that also gets assigned to Peter, and the dispatcher is being updated about that. Okay, let's see how this happens here. So let's focus on this scenario, but before we just go ahead here, let's do one more quick productivity enhancement for the field service dispatcher. We can see that this is the trip of Neil Caffrey, and she is very familiar with this geography. She knows that probably things are looking good, but there could be an opportunity to optimize the trip also. So what Ziva can do is that she can see that, okay, this is looks to be not an optimal trip, but what she can do is that she is given an option to optimize the trip right from here, right? So now immediately we can see that the trip of Neil Caffrey is automatically optimized and the changes will happen real time. So now things have been really changed here.
So
Right?
we start by creating optimal routes, right, with our scheduling algorithms. But throughout the day, as the dispatcher adjusts the schedules, we may get that efficiency that they may become more inefficient. So it's really powerful that the dispatcher can go in and re-optimize.
Exactly, Rob. So now,
And just so you know, Vasant, we're about 20 minutes till the end of our webinar.
okay. Yeah, I will just move a little fast. So now we can see that let's focus on Neil Caffrey. So we spoke about the real-time updates, right? What if the technicians are updating in their field? Now this comes as a real-time change, and the dispatchers need not do anything. Now let's focus on Peter, the actual persona whom we wanted to show. So Peter is already at the place. He has started to work now, and what will happen is that now the real-time update will happen, and let's assume that um, now Peter started the work and he has a solution for this problem, and probably he wants to close complete it early. So now what happens is that if Peter closes this task little early, there could be additional tasks which can fill the schedule. In case if there are new tasks coming in, those can also automatically fill in. The intervention of dispatcher is completely taken away, and this can happen automatically behind the scenes, right? We also saw that dispatcher was notified about what the technicians are doing in the field, right? So now let's say that Peter completes the work order task, right? Now this will get automatically updated, and what will happen here is that the work order task got completed, and in case if there can be new tasks which can be scheduled, assigned, it will get automatically reflected in the schedule, right? Now if you saw immediately that schedules got updated, as a dispatcher there was no intervention. The system automatically took care of readjusting the schedules because Peter completed the task early. Now the task moved
So
to the
we were
left.
talking about that hyper vigilance, that hyper focus of the dispatcher. Here, the system eliminated or reduced the amount of vigilance, right? Because it automatically reacted to the changes that occurred in the field, and it even found a new job it could add because of this early completion. Thank you,
Exactly.
Vasant. Yeah.
Okay. Consider then, yeah. So I think summarizing this, so we saw the real-time updates going to the dispatcher, and in case if the technicians make some updates earlier, then also the system automatically adjusted, right? So now let's see one more use case, crew operation. So as we know that dispatchers do assign tasks which require a single person or multiple persons, right? So let's take a scenario where a dispatcher wants to create a crew where, and there is an option to select cruise, and let's try to select, let me try to refresh this, and we can see all the crews and the technicians. Well, I'm just trying to refresh it. Let me try to refresh my dispatcher workspace. Just hold on. Yeah, so we saw that Ziva handles both technicians and the crews, and we wanted to look into a scenario where Ziva wants to assign this crew task, right? And say, for example, if she wants to assign, she may just say that, okay, let me see at what time this crew task has to be assigned. And it will say that, okay, this task has to be assigned at 4 o'clock. And she sees that at 4 o'clock, this crew is not available, right? Now she has an option to create a new crew, not going anywhere. She can be within the dispatcher workspace, and she can say that, okay, click on create crew, and the crew should be created automatically. So she can mention what is the crew name here, because it was created for a work order task. She can mention here, and she can see that, okay, Patrick is available. She can select Patrick as one of the technicians, and she can start creating a crew now. So now we say what we are saying is that even though if the planned crews are not available, dispatchers are able to create crew on the fly, right? And she can add members. We can see that there are multiple people required, and or it's also equipment required, right? And in case if she wants to add an equipment, she can see that this equipment is booked, but there is one more equipment available, right? So she can add that equipment, and this also will automatically update the availability of the equipment. So what Ziva is now able to have is, it's not only about the technician schedule she's able to manage, she's also able to manage the availability of the specialized equipments and the trucks. And she was able to create a crew and dispatch one single work order task to the crew, so that Patrick leads this crew and he ensures that there are some specialist equipments also available. All this within the dispatcher workspace. um, Ziva need not go outside to any other spreadsheet to find out what are the equipments. Everything is available within the dispatcher workspace itself, right? Okay. So what we saw here is that Ziva was able to select a crew task, and she was able to build a new crew even when there was the planned crew were not available, right? Okay, now let's go a little bit to the final part. We saw that Ziva had some suggestions to the administrator, right? That few things can be changed, and probably like Ziva, a few more dispatchers have given some feedback. So the administrator can configure things for the dispatchers so that they can see more information. And we also saw that how to better balance. That was also one of the feedbacks. So now this goes to the action of the administrators. So say, for example, let's say that the administrator wants to first address Ziva's concern about load balancing. So what the administrator can do is that this is the dynamic scheduling configuration page where for a particular criteria, what are all the criteria we will be using. So for this task filter, there could be a list of work order tasks which match this condition, and how do we want to assign these tasks, right? So for that, this is the set of conditions, and what the administrator has done is already created a matching dimension, which is a simple dimension, which says that based on the number of work order tasks assigned, I want to give less preference to the technicians. So they can simply say, okay, the lesser scheduled technician should be given preference. And also if they want to change the weightage, the administrators can change the weightage also, right? So now this is changed. And also there were more feedbacks, right? So the admins can go to the dispatcher workspace configuration, where they can say that they can set some additional information. Say, for example, on the popover fields, in the dispatcher workspace, we saw the task card, we saw the calendar panel, right? Or what if they wanted to include one more information, right? Like one, there could be multiple, right? Say, for example, let's say that work type is something which the dispatchers wanted to see on the task cards, right? So we can select work type, and this can be visible always, and we can set this is a value. and we can save this. Like this, there are multiple configurations which the admins can do for the dispatchers. They can configure what colors they want to show on the dispatcher workspace, what information they want to see on the card, even the icons they want to see, what icons they want to see based on the work type. Everything is configurable. So now things have been changed. Now let's go back to Ziva and see how the changes are reflecting. So for a second, I will refresh this page.
So you are showing all these different areas that you focused on, the cards on the left, the cards that display in the middle, and that you can make all those different changes, whether they're field level changes or other areas, and that's really powerful.
Yep. So if you see now, we included work type, and we can see that the work type field is here. In case there was information available, then the work type data will be visible here. So just a sample, all this information can be made available. We can configure what information we want to see here, what additional data we want to see on this. Everything the admins can quickly configure, right? And this is one feedback. Let me show you another feedback which the administrator corrected for the dispatches. So we selected one task here, and let's say that these are the list of PM tasks. And now, based upon the new changes, previously the task was getting assigned to Patrick because Patrick was at that location. But the feedback what the dispatchers gave is that we know that reducing travel time is an objective, but at the same time, we also want to make sure that we want to give more tasks, right? So now, by the new changes, now the task goes for a load balancing. Now the task is suggested for Chris Martin instead of Tell Patrick. Okay, so just recapping, the feedback came from the dispatchers like Ziva. The administrator quickly made changes. Everything is immediately reflected within for the dispatchers, and things become more productive. So thank you, Rob, for giving this opportunity. Probably it took a few more minutes, but
No, that's fantastic. I'm impressed. I'm like, we've got a lot more to go through. You packed a whole lot in that time, so thank you very much. I want to review what we've discussed today. I've got a couple follow-ups, and then we've got some Q&A that we want to get through. So, of course, we discussed the role of the dispatcher and their challenges. So based on that, we went into the Dispatcher Workspace and did an overview demonstration talking about how we're consolidating. We're creating a more consolidated UI that bridges all those different data sources. And we showed how the dispatcher can actually go in and manipulate the Dispatcher Workspace to display or hide different objects, to create their own filters, to find data easily. Vasantha then showed the automatic scheduling capabilities that can be run at different intervals. And he showed the intraday schedule optimization. In his scenario, technician had 4 jobs, completed 1 job an hour and a half early. So instead of having an hour and a half gap that the dispatcher would have to see somehow and say, oh, I've got to fill that, the system actually took over and determined, re-optimized for that technician. Maybe we shifted everything left and we added a new job for them. Right? That really made life a whole lot easier and less stressful for the dispatcher. Vasantha also showed crew-related work, and in his scenario, there wasn't a crew available to meet the needs of the task at hand, so the dispatcher was able to easily go in and define a new crew, build a new crew on the fly specific to that job, an ad hoc one-time use crew. And then the last thing he did was he went in and he configured, from an admin perspective, he created some scheduling rules based on feedback from some of his dispatchers to better load balance the scheduling algorithms. And he also went in and added some fields to some of whether it's a hover or whether it's the field that displays in one of the cards. So there were a lot of different options on there. So we went through a lot. Based on that, what should we focus on next? Well, to get started, you can activate these plugins, and there are other plugins besides these, but these are a few of them that we showed. Of course, the configurable workspace and dynamic scheduling, but intelligent task recommendations, crew operations, and resource scheduling. These plugins will make it easy for you to follow along if you review this and kind of walk through the demo yourself. You can also go to our system documentation, and it will show you in great detail how your organization can learn more about the Dispatcher Workspace and the setup. And then I would suggest when you get the replay, the link for the replay, walk through these flows in your own instance. Just wanted to remind you of this documentation. I talked about the detailed documentation. There's a lot of subsections underneath this as well. We've got the link here for the documentation. First, again, we have the link that we added to the chat earlier about the schedule for upcoming webinars. I also mentioned that June 20th, we have another field service webinar specifically focused on the technician experience and configuring the experience for the technician. And then there is also, and I'm not sure if we can add this to Harriet, maybe you can grab the playlist link and add this here as well. There's a YouTube FSM playlist. You can scan this barcode and it will bring you directly to it. But it has a number of video shorts that are 1 to 4.5 minutes long. There are some more detailed ones. In fact, we're going to probably post this webinar on here as well as the community as well. Thank you, Harriet, for adding the FSM playlist link in the webinar chat. So this is another area where you can review maybe more specifically on things like equipment scheduling or that contractor capacity planning or that crew builder in a little bit more detail. So that's what we were planning on showing today. I hope you found value in it. I hope you got what you were looking for out of it. You will get the follow-up survey. Please be brutally honest. I was hoping to see this, or you spent too much time up front and not enough time in the demo. We need more Vasanth talking, less Rob talking. I'm fine with that. I've got thick skin. So there looks like there may be one more question in the Q&A. Is there a possibility for a dispatcher to track the parts ordered for a technician in the Dispatcher Workspace? Is there a possibility for the dispatcher to track the parts? Yeah, there are a couple ways that happens. Based on the way your workflow is defined, that task might not even be available to the dispatcher to assign until the parts are available. So that would be one workflow to do that. Vasanth, any other thoughts on how to answer that?
Yeah, I think you answered it correct, Rob. So yeah, that's the option to do that.
Okay. And then there was a follow-up to a question. We're using a third-party company, Field Nation, Work Market, so they're not contracted to us. We don't have control of their schedules, just provide an ETA of when they can take the job. Vasanth, it looks like you're starting to answer that. So I'll let you go ahead.
I was just typing it, but what I was trying means probably I can speak it out. So yeah, so using our contractor management functionality, it's like, as Rob mentioned, that the contractor companies can just say that, okay, what is the capacity or work they can do? Like you're saying that 10 hours or 10 tasks per week. And based upon that contract agreed between the contractors and the OEM, the task will be just scheduled to them. So instead of a third-party tool, now field service application, the ServiceNow field service application will make sure that those contractors are properly tracked, so that you can see how many tasks are assigned to them. And even with the mobile experience, it becomes more integrated. Whenever the contractor agents are dispatched to the customers, they get to know what time they arrive, the last mile experience. So with our application, the contractor management application, you should be able to track your contractors much better.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Vasanth. I know we are at the top of the hour, so I want to thank you again all for joining. Please follow up with the survey and let us know if you have any further questions looking forward, and join us on June 20th for the next webinar. Thank you all.